Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode where we break down the struggles of learning English and how to overcome them. I'm Emma, and today we're tackling a huge challenge that so many learners face, feeling embarrassed when speaking English.
And I'm Jake.
If you've ever felt nervous, self-conscious, or afraid of making mistakes when speaking, trust me, you're not alone.
It happens to everyone.
But today, we're going to help you push past that fear and start speaking with confidence.
That's right, because embarrassment is actually one of the biggest things holding people back from improving their English. If you're too afraid to speak, you miss out on valuable practice.
Exactly. And honestly, most of the fears people have about speaking English are totally unnecessary.
Yep, so let's dive into why we feel embarrassed and, more importantly, how to stop feeling that way.
All right. Let's start with the big question. Why do people feel embarrassed when speaking English?
A lot of it comes down to fear of judgment, people worrying about making mistakes, sounding funny, or not being understood.
Yeah, and it's completely natural. No one likes to feel like they're being judged, especially when speaking in a second language.
But here's the thing, most people aren't actually judging you at all.
That's so true. Think about it. If someone speaks your native language with an accent or makes a mistake, do you laugh at them? Probably not, right?
Exactly. In fact, most people are impressed that you're even trying. And honestly, native speakers make mistakes all the time too.
Right, but I think a lot of learners put too much pressure on themselves to sound perfect, which just makes them more anxious.
Perfectionism is definitely a confidence killer. If you're constantly worrying about every little grammar mistake or pronunciation slip, you will never feel comfortable speaking.
Exactly, and the irony is that the more you avoid speaking, the harder it becomes to improve. It's like a cycle. Fear makes you stay silent, and staying silent keeps you from getting better.
That's why breaking that cycle is so important. And one of the best ways to do that is to change the way you think about mistakes.
Yes, instead of seeing mistakes as failures, look at them as part of the learning process. Every mistake you make is actually helping you get better.
100%.
And honestly, some of the best learning moments come from mistakes. You mess up once, you correct yourself, and boom, you remember it forever.
Right, it's like how kids learn languages. They make tons of mistakes, but they don't care. They just keep going, and that's how they improve so fast.
That's such a good point. Kids don't sit around worrying about sounding silly, they just speak.
And guess what?
That's why they pick up languages so easily.
Exactly, so if we can adopt that same mindset, we'll start making progress much faster.
Another thing that helps is focusing on communication, not perfection. The goal isn't to speak like a textbook, it's to connect with people.
Yes, as long as people understand you, you're doing great. A small grammar mistake or an accent isn't going to stop someone from getting your point.
And actually, most native speakers don't even notice small mistakes.
They're focused on the conversation, not on analyzing your grammar.
Right, and even if they do notice, they don't care as much as you think. No one expects a non-native speaker to be perfect.
Exactly.
So much of the fear around speaking English is in our own heads.
Once you realize that, it gets a lot easier to just speak.
Yep, and there are also some practical things you can do to feel more confident when speaking.
Oh, definitely. Like practicing with yourself first, talking out loud at home, recording yourself, even thinking in English.
Yes, thinking in English is a game changer. If you practice forming sentences in your head, it makes speaking feel much more natural.
And another thing, find supportive people to practice with. A lot of learners feel embarrassed because they're afraid of being judged. But if you practice with people who encourage you, it's way less stressful.
That's so true. A language partner, a tutor, or even a group of friends who are also learning can make a huge difference.
And don't forget about immersion.
The more you expose yourself to English through movies, music, podcasts, the more comfortable you'll feel using it.
Absolutely. When you hear English all the time, it starts to feel familiar, and that takes away a lot of the fear.
The bottom line, confidence doesn't come from waiting until you're perfect.
It comes from practicing even when you're not.
Exactly. The more you speak, the less nervous you'll feel. It's just like any other skill, you get better by doing it.
So, don't hold yourself back. Speak as much as you can, make mistakes, learn from them, and most importantly, enjoy the process.
And another thing, remind yourself why you're learning English in the first place. When you focus on why you want to improve, it's easier to push past the fear.
That's a great point. If your goal is to travel, get a better job, or connect with more people, then a little embarrassment is a small price to pay for all the opportunities that come with speaking English.
Exactly. And once you start using English in real life situations, you'll realize that those small mistakes don't matter as much as you think.
Right. Confidence doesn't come from being perfect.
It comes from realizing that perfection isn't necessary to communicate.
Yes, and honestly, the more you put yourself out there, the more natural speaking English will feel. It won't be scary anymore, it'll just be normal.
That's the goal, right? To make English feel like a part of your life instead of something you're afraid of.
Exactly. And once you reach that point, speaking English will feel way more fun and way less stressful.
And you know what?
The more fun you have with it, the faster you'll improve. When you stop worrying so much and just enjoy using the language, everything starts to click.
That's so true. Think about how kids learn languages. They don't sit there stressing about grammar rules, they play, they experiment, they laugh. And they improve because they're having fun.
Exactly. So why not do the same?
Play around with English.
Try different accents, make jokes, sing along to songs, even if you sound silly. Who cares?
Yes, and another thing, don't be afraid to slow down when you speak. A lot of learners try to rush because they think speaking fast makes them sound more fluent, but it actually makes them more nervous.
That's a great tip. Speaking at a natural pace gives you time to think, and it makes you sound more confident.
Right, and confidence is everything when it comes to speaking. Even if you're not perfect, if you speak with confidence, people will respect and understand you.
100%.
And honestly, confidence grows with experience.
The more conversations you have, the less scary speaking becomes.
Yes, and even if you make mistakes, those mistakes are teaching you something. So instead of fearing them, embrace them.
Exactly.
Learning a language isn't about being flawless, it's about communicating, connecting, and growing.
Exactly. Learning a language isn't about perfection, it's about progress. And honestly, nobody expects you to speak flawlessly, so why put that pressure on yourself?
Yes. And think about this when a non-native speaker tries to speak your language. Do you judge them for making mistakes?
Of course not. In fact, most people appreciate the effort. So why do we assume that others will judge us when we speak English?
Right.
It's just in our heads.
And the truth is, people are usually too focused on the conversation to even notice small mistakes.
Exactly. And even if they do notice, they don't care. They're listening to what you're saying, not how perfectly you say it.
That's such an important mindset shift. Instead of focusing on yourself and your mistakes, focus on the person you're talking to.
When you shift the focus from you to them, the pressure disappears.
That's a great tip. And another thing, if you ever get stuck or forget a word, don't panic. Just describe what you're trying to say in a different way.
Yes.
Native speakers do that all the time too. If they forget a word, they use another one or explain it differently. It's totally normal.
Exactly. The key is to keep the conversation going. If you freeze or feel embarrassed, just take a deep breath and keep talking.
And honestly, the more conversations you have, the easier this becomes.
The first few times might feel awkward, but eventually, speaking English will feel natural.
Yes, and that's when you realize fear of embarrassment was the only thing holding you back. Not your ability, not your accent, just fear.
And once you stop letting that fear control you, learning English becomes so much more enjoyable.
So, at the end of the day, the only real way to stop feeling embarrassed when speaking English is to just keep speaking. The more you do it, the easier it gets.
Exactly. You'll realize that no one is judging you as much as you think.
And even if they do notice small mistakes, they don't really care.
And honestly, most people respect you for making the effort. Speaking a second language is an incredible skill, and the fact that you're even trying means you're already ahead of so many others.
Yes. So instead of worrying about perfection, focus on progress.
Every time you speak, you're improving, and that's what really matters.
Absolutely. So, to anyone listening, don't let fear hold you back. Go out there, start speaking, and have fun with it. The confidence will come with time.
And remember, mistakes are not failures, they're proof that you're learning.
That's a perfect way to end it. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
See you next time.
Bye.